head of UNRWA, has come out and essentially said that the Israelis are using starvation as a weapon of war. And of course, the Israelis are dismissing it, but there was some unbelievable footage on ITV and Channel 4 that I saw. I mentioned last week the girl who was looking at pictures of herself when she was healthy, but they were in a hospital with these babies that were, you've seen kids like this in Africa where their eyes are popping out, the ribs are coming out through the skin. It was absolutely horrific. I still can't for the life of me understand why it's not being called out more than it is, including by our own government and by the American government and by the French and by the Germans. I mean, it's just gone beyond anything that I think we ever imagined was going to happen, with the international community not getting stuck in and really trying to resolve it.
Interesting things happening in the British Parliament. Some of my former Conservative colleagues.
I saw that.
More on the right, in fact, kind of Brexit voting Conservative colleagues coming out now very strongly critical of Israel. There have been other MPs WhatsApping me from the Tory party saying, we want you to speak out more about this. So there's clearly a movement within the Conservative Party, which is interesting. On what's happening, just to remind people, effectively now for over 2 months, there has been a blockade on food going in.
And medication.
They're talking about bringing 60 trucks a day. That's about a tenth of what you would need. And it's really mad because the UN has systems in place, which it's been running, has an enormous amount of experience about how to deliver that aid. The idea of trying to bring in a tenth of the amount with completely untested people while moving 2 million people at the same time is an absolute recipe for disaster.
The role of the media in this is incredibly important. And we fell victim to this. We were very much trying to be fair to both sides, on the one hand, on the other hand. And I think that one of the narratives that the Israeli propaganda machine has been very effective at pushing, particularly on people who maybe haven't followed this closely over the years, is that this whole thing kind of started on October the 7th. Whereas actually what we're seeing more and more of, particularly from the Ben Gvir and Smotrich, and we talked about the Louis Theroux documentary on the settlers, is that in a way that they seized this opportunity, horrible though it was, to drive this agenda of annexation and essentially to, wipe out the Palestinian occupied territories, which in that interview, the settlers wouldn't even call Palestinian occupied territories. They've spent months and months documenting the death of doctors, medics, nurses, etc., working in Gaza, and the sort of systematic destruction of healthcare facilities. And the BBC has been sitting on it now for months, and every week coming up with different reasons why they can't show it. Sitting on this, when all the fact-checking has been done, there is a sort of double standard here. And I'm only mentioning the BBC because it happens to be sitting there. But I think you then look at the way that some of the American media covers this. So I think if when you see those pictures of those kids, and again, there was footage last night of these young kids screaming, holding these pots, 4 guys stirring what looked like rice or something in these pots, and these kids screaming to get near them, and then food flying. It was actually, the reporter used the word feeding frenzy, and it's the first time I've ever fully understood what that means. They were in a frenzy because they could see food there. So then you see stuff like, UK Lawyers for Israel, which is, as it says on the tin, these are British-based lawyers who essentially support Israel. And they've made the rather astonishing claim that the blockade might be good for the people of Gaza because the Gazans had a bit of an obesity problem, and also that it might even lead to greater fitness, which will help life expectancy. There are no cigarettes going through, for example. I mean, that is sick. That is sick. I'm sorry. I don't know whether they've apologized, but they should. So there's Trump there. Let's hope he does get the message that actually he does have a responsibility for some of this going on.